Welcome to a week in League, where we cover League of Legends esports all around the globe from all four. Right, that's not what we're doing here today. Today, we'll be taking a look behind the scenes.
Okay, I hope this intro wasn't too jarring for you, because we've certainly come a long way since then. Although if you ask me, it's always funny to go and look back at the first episode just to see how far we've come. Now before I get into the video and how we make our weekly episodes around here, I just want to say thank you so much for all the support. This would not have been possible without you. This behind the scenes video was something I planned to release around the 100 subscriber mark, which we hit last year, but unfortunately I got a little busy and life got in the way and didn't really finish the season out. Hopefully though, this year we can finish it out strong. I shot a version of this video last year, however, for season 2, we've changed a lot and we've also upgraded most of the gear. Either way, just like the intro, I'll be including footage from the old video just to show you how far we've come. But first, we're going to split up this video into 3 main sections: the studio tour, a general overview, and then my post-production process. First, let's talk about the studio. I mean, if you can even call it that. This may come as a surprise to you, but I am just a guy on green screen, you know? Yeah, I had you all fooled. I have a spare bedroom that I've turned into an office/studio space over the years. You can think of it as my ever-evolving space that always adapts to my needs and hobbies at the time. Anyways, we're going to show you some footage from back in season 1 when we were just starting, and then we're going to do a current modern day studio tour afterwards. And this is it, the big grand studio space. Now, like I said, this is back from season 1 when we were just starting. I was shooting on my phone back then and we had the tiny green screen. But yeah, this is a 5-foot green screen. I bought the kit and I had these lights that I kind of rigged up there with a little arm and some tape. And this is the background light that was behind me. This is the H4n that I was using as a recorder microphone with a pop filter. Inside the softbox, I have the 3 bulb splitter to kind of give me more light. I also had jerry-rigged this LED panel, literally out of LED strips, but yeah, we don't need to talk about that. And then this is my iPad that I use with my teleprompter. And then that's the teleprompter. If you can see, the phone cage is behind, that's where the phone was sitting. This is the big workshop where I store all my junk. This is the Mackie sound mixer. I use it sometimes, less so nowadays with the new mic, but yeah, the 4 monitors may be a bit overkill, but that's kind of what I prefer. I use a Razer mouse. Don't really use my keyboard because I use this Razer left-handed key thing. I don't know, it's a macro pad, whatever you want to call it. It's my PC and my 3D printer on the left. And that's me. And, you know, that's a little closet back there. And more storage for more junk. Yes, do not mind all the junk. Yeah, that's Studio 1.0. Okay, fast forward to the Season 2 setup and things look very different. The biggest change, in my opinion, was the move to a 2-camera angle shoot. In such a small space, especially with a green screen, that presents its own set of challenges. But this was nothing a little problem solving and DIY can't solve. Okay, this is it again. The big grand space, just a little upgraded. You can see the green screen is now much bigger. It spans the entire, almost the 2 walls. Desk is also a lot bigger. Things are a little clearer now. There's a little more room to stand. See the lights. I have these ceiling mounted lights as well to kind of evenly light the green screen between those and the 2 little lights. The 2 big softbox are still present. The workshop area is the same. 4 monitors are still there. Peripherals are generally still the same. Yeah. Not much else to add here. This is one of the new cameras. Now I use the H4n as a backup recorder. My VR headset, closet, the teleprompter with a cam. Now the VR headset, it's one of those older ones and there's the sensors all around the room. This doesn't have inside-out tracking, right? That's how it locates all the stuff. And yeah, this is it. Certainly come a long way. Space looks very, very different now, but yeah, definitely works for me. Alright, with the studio tour out of the way, let's talk about some of the gear. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single purchase and every single item that I have in this space because it's a lot. And not everything in here I purchased, most of this was actually repurposed or bought off used marketplaces. Anyways, let's take a look at the gear setup from both seasons. Okay, so like I said, we didn't really have much on Season 1. I was using my phone at the time, which was a Pixel 5. I had a green screen kit that I got off Amazon with the 2 soft light boxes. It was about like $100. I had the bulb splitter thing and got a couple additional bulbs. I don't remember where I got the tripod from. I did buy the phone cage, H4n I had laying around, pop filter with the mic stand as a kit together, and yeah, it was good to go from there. Now fast forward to the Season 2 gear list, and the first thing you noticed is the camera upgrades. You could do anything with your phone camera, but I wanted a better key and I wanted more details, so I got a couple old Blackmagic cameras off Facebook Marketplace, and you saw the 16-foot green screen. I just got that and put it on this flexible track that I shaped around between the 2 walls. The 3 LED light panels that are lighting the green screen, and the ceiling mounts to mount them on. 2 mini LED lights that sit kind of underneath me to evenly light behind me. The softboxes carried over. I had to get an additional tripod for the second camera, and the microphone, how can I forget, was also one of the biggest upgrades for this season. Now this isn't everything I use, but it is the primary gear of how I get these episodes out weekly. Let's move on to the second part of this video, and it's the general overview of the show. Here's why I make a weekend league. I always wish someone created a weekly news show to recap the major regions and the LOL Esports news. And yes, I watch and listen to every big podcast and talk show in the scene that runs, 2+ hours long as well. But what I always wanted was a quicker 10 to 20 minute recap of what happened in the week from all the regions just to keep me in the loop. And one day I was like, I guess I'll just make it myself. This show has been a great experience for me to diversify my skill set and learn new things. From the beginning, I always had big dreams of having this entire thing run in a virtual production studio using Unreal Engine all in real time. And I'm nowhere where I want to be yet, but at least I'm somewhere. Anyways, now that you have an idea of why I make the show, let's move on to the weekly process. I generally watch and keep up with the 4 major regions, however, I'll spend a little extra time on Sunday catching up on more games and watching highlights. On Monday, I'll usually have the script completed with the possibility to add more things on Tuesday morning. I will then shoot the video as early as possible on Tuesday, and it's then a race to get the video out the same day. I think that's about it for this part of the video. Now let's talk about the post-production process. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the post-production process, the editing and the keying and all that stuff, let's talk about our virtual studio here for a second. Like I mentioned earlier, I have big dreams of making this a virtual production type show. And I knew that step 1 was going to be creating a virtual studio space. And by creating, I mean finding something off the marketplace and editing to fit my needs. You gotta start somewhere, right? There's no shame in using a template. Anyways, once I got the virtual studio set up, I used my VR headset to track my camera locations in real time, figured out the angles, and rendered out all my foreground and background elements that I need for the show. While that sounds exciting and all, on the weekly, there isn't much that goes on inside of Unreal just yet. Perhaps that might change in the future. Who knows, maybe next season? Now here's what happens every week in terms of getting the episode from camera footage to a YouTube upload, aka the post-production process. Okay, the post-production process. Now, this first part was from Season 1. Back in Season 1, I didn't really use Resolve since the footage came color graded already from the phone. And you'll see what I mean when we switch to Season 2, because this process is done inside of DaVinci Resolve for Season 2. But anyways, I'll usually get the footage of my project, sync it with the audio, and cut it all up, and make sure that I have the contents of the episode ready to go. I'll usually do this process in 2 passes. One pass where I usually select all the takes that I'm going to use if I did multiple takes, choose all the camera angles now, cut out all the silences, etc. And then on the second pass, it's more of like a fine-tuned pass where I'm going in and kind of doing minor frame adjustments here and there. Now, like I said, in Season 1, I did all the initial editing inside of Adobe Premiere and got all the footage synced there. However, now that I'm shooting on these Blackmagic cameras, I figured that moving inside of Resolve so that I can get the color grade when I'm done with this is probably a better workflow. So this is basically what we just watched, except the modernization of that process, where now I have two cameras, I'm editing a multicam clip inside of Resolve, and it's pretty much the same process as Season 1, where I'm going in a couple of passes. The first pass is usually getting all the select takes and cutting down all the silence out, and then the second pass is more for the fine tuning. And now that there's two cameras, there's a third pass where I go back and move all the B camera footage to a separate layer. And because the footage is on two separate video layers, I'm able to select each layer with all of the clips and apply the grade to each layer separately. In this case, because I'm using slightly different lenses and a teleprompter on one, there's a very big color shift, which means that I can't use the same LUT or color grade on both cameras. And because this is a controlled space, I basically shot one of these ones, and now I have a LUT that I can apply to match my look every time. Anyways, once the color grade is applied, I render out all the sections individually into A and B cam. And then I bring it into After Effects to key it. Now, I know I could do the keying inside of Premiere or Resolve or whatever. After Effects is my preferred software of choice, and this is just where I like to key. This also allows me to render out the footage while continuing to edit inside of Adobe Premiere. Once I get the key settings dialed in, I'll get a little background image just to see how the key is looking. I'll do a little playback, and once I'm satisfied with it, I'll hit render on all the sections. Usually, the After Effects render is the longest one since it is the one keying the footage, which kind of works out because it gives me time to get everything else prepped and usually take a quick lunch break. Once the key render is complete, I go back into Resolve to do my final assembly and make sure that foreground and background is married with my keyed footage. Now this process is usually very quick and it's just a quick copy paste, and then at the end of it, I'll switch my project settings and re-render all the sections at 4K this time. Now, once I have all the sections rendered, I'll go into Premiere, which I guess in this case, I'm going back into Premiere if this was Season 1, but if this is Season 2, then this would be my first time into Premiere. So nowadays, I just use Premiere to insert all my final graphics, do my sound mix, and get everything that you see on screen in the final episode combined together into the one final YouTube upload. This includes all the lower thirds, any editorial effects like the ones you're seeing right now, inserting clips, or anything of that sort. And once it's all done, I'll give it a quick watch and then I'm ready to hit render. And that's it. That's how you make a weekend league. Alright, I definitely skipped over lots of little things here and there, but you should have a general idea of how the show is made. And as usual, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Maybe on the next Behind a Weekend League, we'll go more in depth on whatever sections were unclear. Personally, I'd like to make one of these every 100 subscribers to document the process and to kind of share the milestone with everybody. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this different style of video and now have an understanding of how the show is made. Thank you so much for all the continued support.
If you're watching this video, that means that we've hit the 100 subscriber milestone. I just want to thank you guys so much. I don't even know what to say. I would have never expected this much support, but thank you. We're going to keep it up and we're going to keep up our weekly episodes.